they want.
Jalen, we all saw this coming as the confetti fell on the floor in Orlando. We knew we would be talking about Michael Jordan versus LeBron James in the GOAT conversation. LeBron addressed it himself with our Rachel Nichols. Let's listen to the King.
The debate's gonna happen. Y'all can talk about it. I'll talk about it with my guys when we at home, our friends and all that stuff, but I'm not gonna give it to y'all. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna fall for it. You guys know how much I love Michael Jordan. I wear number 23 because of Michael Jordan. When I first got my first pair of Jordans, you couldn't tell me nothing. So y'all can do the debates. Y'all can figure that
out. Challenge accepted, LeBron James. He wants us to figure it out. He wants us to have the debate, so we will. Now, you and I have been arguing about this passionately for years and years now. But what we decided to do is put emotions aside and decide on some criteria that could measure the GOAT. And here are the 5 criteria that you picked. Scoring titles, NBA titles, MVPs, Finals MVPs, and Defensive Player of the Year. Why did you pick these 5 categories?
They establish dominance and they're not emotional. We're not upgrading or downgrading teammates. We're not talking about the number of teams or coaches somebody played for. We're talking about who's the greatest basketball player of all time. And in order to get to that, you have to hit those 5 marks. If you're winning championship, if you're winning Finals MVP, if you're winning scoring title, if you're winning Defensive Player of the Year, if you're winning those awards, now all of a sudden you go into a different echelon of all-time greatness. And this criteria was not available clearly earlier when the NBA was established, but that is a great metric for everybody out there when you want to have the conversation about who's the GOAT. Take those 5 categories and slot the players in, not the other way around.
And that is exactly what we are going to do here today. Now, one thing that's interesting about these 5 categories is no human being has ever achieved all 5 in a single season. However, there are 4 people that have achieved 4 of the 5 GOAT criteria in a single season. Michael Jordan has done it 4 times. We have Shaq, Hakeem, and Kareem. Jalen.
Since they've been keeping stats, these are the greatest individual seasons of all time. Those terrific performers, and look, was a big man's game. 3 of those 4 are centers. Notice that, and they did it each one time. Michael Jordan, a 6'6" guard, did it 4 times.
That's important to point out. And as you said, this is just a single season where one human being has achieved 4 of the 5 GOAT criteria. Now, we're going to do an exercise here. Again, that was a single season. What if we opened it up to people that have achieved 4 of the 5 GOAT criteria over their entire careers? You would think a floodgate of great players would come in, but it's only 5 more people. Kobe, Wilt, Durant, James, and Robinson. Your thoughts?
This is where you start talking about some of the most explosive players that ever played in the NBA. Only 9 basketball players to ever wear the Jerry West logo on their chest have been able to achieve 4 of these 5 categories at some point in their career. At some point in their career. That is outstanding for the players involved.
It's also important to point out that players like Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell didn't have the opportunity to win some of these awards. But, Jalen, there's one human being standing on this planet over the course of history that has actually achieved all 5 of the GOAT criteria over the course of their career. And it's not going to be a surprise exactly who that is. That is Michael Jeffrey Jordan. But it's not just the fact that he did it, it's the quantity of times that he's done it. Take a look at this, Jalen. Your thoughts?
Sometimes I dream that he is me. Not only did he achieve all 5 at some point of his career, Jacoby, it ain't like Defensive Player of the Year where he just did it once. He was the scoring champion 10 times. In 6 of those years, his team won the championship. The scoring champion who also won the championship that year. Michael Jordan was the Finals MVP 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. His team won the championship. That means each time he was the dominant force. Oh, also he won 5 MVPs. And so when you start talking about the GOAT, Michael Jordan has been able to achieve things in the statistical era that are just unmatched, and the volume and the quantity is outstanding.
Absolutely, and we both know that there's no perfect way to decide this, and that's why it gets debated so heated in barbershops and conversations over time. And one thing that's important to identify during this particular conversation is not every player had the opportunity to win Finals MVP or Defensive Player of the Year because those awards were established later. So one person that we definitely want to highlight, along with Wilt Chamberlain, is a gentleman by the name of Bill Russell. Bill Russell had 11 titles in his 13-year career, and look at those other accolades. They named the Finals MVP after him. Jalen, respect Bill Russell.
And you can't have this conversation without mentioning Magic, Bird, Tim Duncan, and Kobe Bryant, who are going to round out anybody's top 10 or top 12 list. But this list right here for the young people, when you start talking about all-time great achievements, that gentleman right there is the king of all kings. 11 championships in 13 years. And if they had Defensive Player of the Year, he would have not only won it so many years, that should also be named after him, along with the Finals MVP of the NBA.
And one thing I also want to say about Bill Russell is he averaged like just below 20 points a game. Like he wasn't a true scorer. He just affected the game so much with defense and rebounds. And he played 13 years and won 11 titles. That cannot be downplayed. Now, Jalen, we know this is not an exact science, but we've established this criteria. We've sort of adjusted for eras. And when it comes down to it, when you compare Michael Jordan and LeBron James, given these criteria, it's not even close. Your thoughts?
And that's why LeBron still has more work to do. He's in Los Angeles. He just teamed up with AD. They have won. I believe if he would have stayed in Miami and Chris Bosh could have stayed healthy and played with Dwayne Wade and allowed Pat Riley to continue to build the roster with Eric Spoelstra as the coach, I think he would have got a lot closer to these numbers earlier. But since he's still playing at an MVP caliber level, he still has an opportunity to continue to get closer and closer to the GOAT. And when people talk about Michael Jordan, Jacoby, they always talk about his intensity and his toughness and his killer instinct. But you know what they don't talk about? The grace that he played with, the beauty that was Michael Jordan's game, the finesse. He played basketball with his tongue out. Just think about that for a second. Michael Jordan embodied cool, the way he had fashion, the way we rocking his shoes still to this day. It seems like when we talk about him, people mention him like he wasn't a graceful basketball player, like he wasn't the most beautiful basketball player to ever watch. And LeBron still has more work to do on the floor. However, off the floor, LeBron James got the number one spot. No question about it. We talk about social, political, putting on for his culture in the neighborhood. LeBron James is the undisputed MVP. He's the Bill Russell off the floor.
And Jalen, you know I'm a huge LeBron James fan. When he was on the Cavs, I root for the Cavs. When he's on the Heat, I root for the Heat. When he's in the Cavs, I root for the Cavs. When he's in the Lakers, I root for the Lakers. But Tommy, if you put up that last full screen one more time, even as a LeBron James fan, I have to say, objectively, with these criteria, he's got some work to do to be considered the GOAT. It's just there right in front of you. 10 scoring titles to 1. Defensive Player of the Year, 0. Titles, MVPs, LeBron still has work to do. But however, he was second in MVP voting. He's only 35 years old. There's still more work that LeBron is going to do on the court, and I cannot wait to see it. So there you have it. We've removed emotion. We've leveled the playing field through eras. And when it gets down to it, Michael Jordan is the GOAT, but LeBron James can still catch him. Oh, that felt good. I feel like we finished it. No one will ever talk about the GOAT debate for the rest of time, right?